Michael Likambi, an evangelist and apologist with Victory Baptist Church, Norris Green, just by Ella Green Center here, not far from you here.
What does Pentecostalism mean to you?
That's a very good term. I love that question. That is linked to the resurrection. It's the 50th day after Jesus' sojourn on earth. So Pentecostalism, like I said before, if you look at, let me take it back to the Old Testament. If you look at the first two chapters of the Bible, man had the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. But when man fell, the Holy Spirit left man. So man now became lesser than what he was supposed to be. He loses his potential, he loses his uniqueness, he loses that nature and that essence of God. So God made a promise that he was going to send his son to bring back what man lost. So when Jesus came back and died and resurrected, Pentecost was just that moment when the Holy Spirit came back to us. So it's a big thing. It is so core for the Christian faith. We want to talk about Pentecostalism. It's so core to the Christian faith because without Jesus going back to heaven and sending the Holy Spirit, we will still be in that nature after the fall.
Pentecostal religion is fairly new in Africa. Which mainstream church did you attend before, and why did you leave it for the Pentecostal church?
I used to attend a Presbyterian church back home in Cameroon. I'm originally from the Cameroon. I had no particular reason of leaving the Presbyterian church. I think, though there's a lot of tradition there, but they were teaching the Bible. So I left because we don't have so many Presbyterian churches here in the UK, and to be a Pentecostal here, it was easier because there were so many Pentecostal churches which are spread around here in Liverpool and Manchester, especially when we came. So I decided to join one of them.
Why would an African who has not done so yet leave their Christian church, mosque or any other religion for an African Pentecostal church?
When you define church by ethnic line, it's not a good thing. You can describe a church by saying an African church, but you cannot define the church by its ethnicity. So you go to a church where you think you will gain more knowledge of the Bible and the person of God. You can get a good relationship. I'm not going to a church because it's predominantly black. You can go to a black church and there is no gospel there. You can go to a white church and there's no gospel there. You can go to an Arab church and there's no gospel there. So my going to church is premised on the quality of the message and the quality of the teaching. That is how I see it. So remember, there is no white, black or green church. You see, these are our description of it. The church is the church of Christ. So all this division that people say this is a white church, this is an Arab church, this is the kind of confusion and the conflicts that man is bringing into the Bible, which is not right in my opinion.
Why do you think that there's no white people or Arabs or any other religion or ethnicity in the church?
That's a very good question. Okay, when the church came to Africa, okay, the good thing the Westerners did before introducing the church, they came to live with the people. They had to study the culture. They have to acculturize with the people before starting the gospel there. Now, the mistake we've done this time around is we've come in directly with the gospel. We don't want to acculturize with the people. You need to understand the culture, you know. You need to understand the mindset of a Westerner to evangelize to a Westerner. So if you're taking the church to like India, you have to understand the mindset of an Easterner. You have to understand the culture so that you can relate with their local lingo, their local slogans, and their poetry and their prose there. It will be easier for you to evangelize. So this distinction is a very good question. This distinction here is as a result of us not getting into the culture first. You have to get into the culture first, then you start evangelizing with the people.
Can Pentecostal pastors perform miracles as most of them claim?
Miracle is intrinsic and real in the Christian faith. Yeah, they do, but not to the extent to which they claim sometimes. But don't get this wrong. Miracle is real and it's intrinsic in the Bible. It is very, very biblical. We have so many miracles. We have miracles today in today's church, but sometimes God functions in diverse way. God can give you the power, even you seated here, to heal a brother that is sick and you heal that brother for that instance. It doesn't mean that God has asked you to open a ministry for healing. You see, that's the mistake people make. God uses you for something, but did not establish that as an institution in you. But now you say, because you've healed this person, I am going to take this to this extent. I'm a miracle man, Michael Miracle.
Is there any pastors that you think have brought a bad influence upon people?
There are so many charlatans out there. Why do I say that? There are pastors who deviate from the key message of the gospel. And when you deviate, when you derail from the key message of the gospel, you are preaching humanism, you are preaching your culture, you are preaching your own message. And that's wrong. We've gone so emotional now and gone so, like you said, entrepreneurial now that prosperity message was almost captivating the church. There's nothing wrong for a Christian to prosper, but you have to keep the core and the context of the message the way the Bible puts it.
Is there a body that is responsible for the actions a pastor takes?
That's a very good question and a very dodgy one too. Okay. The way the churches are organized, sometimes it's very, very difficult. But the churches that are properly organized, where they have a board members overseeing the activities of the workers in the mission, there's an authority overlooking the pastor. But in a situation where the pastor is the Almighty, he is the Almighty, he himself is a truth to himself, his power to himself, and he's got no authority and no body, it becomes very, very difficult. If you take the Catholic Church, they are organized. You know, you could be called for disciplinary committees, you could be called for this, you could be sanctioned. If you take a Redeemed Christian Church, they are getting to that extent where they have a lot of layers there, where they can oversee the activities or the behaviors of a pastor. You can be struck off work, you can be punished and things like that. But you have some lone wolf pastors that they have grown big, they have no authority beyond them, they have no board overseeing them, their finances and the management and the way they run things. It becomes very, very, very difficult. Inherent in the Christian faith is the capacity to give. God gave his life, for God so loved the world he gave. And we give offerings and tithes in church. And it's used for so many things, especially, okay, take for instance our churches here. We don't own buildings here, we don't have a building here, we have bills to pay, there's light, water, there's management around, there's staffs to pay. So there's a lot going on with money like that in the church. There's visiting pastors that are coming, evangelism, there's a lot, you know, and that's the only one of the main way the church raises money. Yeah, but like what's going on now, the controversy, sometimes people abuse things, you know, abuse things, even in the church, there's abuse. If you don't understand the normal use of something, abuse is inevitable. So some pastors get into trouble by doing that, getting into money for the church, for personal use, which is wrong.
In Pentecostal churches, people speak in tongues. What does that mean?
You see, I don't know if you've ever lived in a colony. Any kingdom that colonizes a colony, what happens is they introduce their language first. If you go to all former British territories in the colonial time, the very first thing the British did was imposing their language in the colonized, because language is very, very important. Language is one of the strongest ways to transmit your culture to another people. So the first sign for a Christian when you receive Christ has to give you a new language. So speaking in tongue, just like the colonial masters gives you their language and stop you from speaking your own language, the Bible too, when it colonizes earth, they give you a new language. And speaking in tongue now, it's you speaking directly to your kingdom, your headquarters, heaven. That's what it means. It's just a change of your language. You are not more speaking the language of your culture anymore. You are now speaking the heavenly language.
We live in a Western world where a lot of people don't believe in God. What would you say to them?
I have a very few line of evangelism that I used with people who are completely atheistic. Okay. Sometimes when I have a conversation with them, this is what happens. I'll say it is very, very difficult to live without God in this world. You might not believe in it. You might not believe in him. But there are things in your existence, existentially, that you cannot deny. You cannot deny that life has meaning. You cannot deny that life has purpose. You cannot deny that we need morality, absolute morals for live and let live. You cannot deny that the question of death is not haunting every philosophy out there. I start by this question. Okay, you say you don't believe in God. Please tell me this. How do you define something to be ethically right or wrong? Morals. Do you know the kind of response they give it? They give to me? Some of them will say, by my feelings. I start by saying, oh, are you saying when you feel that something is good, you just do it? So if we go by that definition, I start using it in a street context. I say, okay, you live here, and your neighbor, you feel stealing is good for you, and you go ahead. So if we go by that feelings, so you see, you have caused chaos in your street here, because feelings are subjective. What I feel is not what you feel. They are not objective, you see. So if we go by feelings, there will be chaos here, because there will be no absolute standard or reference points by which we measure right or wrong. Sometimes you go say, some of them will respond, okay, we create a law. How are laws created? It's just it's a philosophical question. It's a very deep question. How are laws created? Laws too are created by an absolute view of something or a relative view of something. If you say laws are relative, then nothing is relative. It's only relative to you and not relative to me. It's just relative to your family and just relative to my own family. What's relative to your family will not be relative to my family. But for us to say rape is wrong, for us to say killing is wrong, that's an absolute. That's what God is, an absolute. He is the absolute standard by which we measure things to be right or wrong.
When the Holy Ghost is absent, many things will go wrong. Oh, confusion among pastors, hatred among pastors, striving among leaders, wickedness will be, fornication will be, adultery will be in the church.